Shalom, shalom, saying Christ bless Israel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All praises to the Most High. We are quite late tonight due to circumstances beyond my control. But however, we are here, we are live, we are in the spirit, and we give all thanks and praise to the Most High. And for all those out there who don't realize and recognize who I am Brother Miasaf, Truth Teller at Chosen Saints, Canada. All praises. And earlier through the week, we did a Bible study on the 18 nations named in the Bible. Again, we had some technical difficulties, and the Bible study was, a little distorted. But you can still look it up. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we're on TikTok. And so, however, whenever, wherever you want to view it, listen to it, it's available. But so we thought that we would do a class on this topic where we would give you a more clear insight, understanding in this platform where you can really get the gist of what that Bible study was about. And so, yeah, as I said, we will see where the nations who were named originated. We will see who were their progenitors. We will understand their meaning, and we will get insight as to who they are. Also, we would understand who are mentioned by the Most High in the Bible as the heathens, the Gentiles. Okay, so with that, let's get into it. And we'll start at the book of Genesis, the book of Genesis, chapter 10. And we'll begin reading at verse 1. So get your Bibles, follow along. Let's break it down. All praises. So Genesis 10, verse 1. And it reads, "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah." Okay, so we would see here where these nations originated from. And so from the beginning of Genesis 10, it tells you these are the generations of the sons of Noah. So Noah would be the progenitor of all the future nations of the earth, because we know the happening of why Noah would have been the progenitor, because through him the Most High saved a certain set of people, because he destroyed the earth with a flood. All praises. And so those heathen-minded people, those Gentiles who were not abiding in the Most High, not following in the Most High, such as Noah and his family they were destroyed. And so then Noah became the progenitor of all nations of the earth. All right, so let's read on. Genesis 10, verse 1. "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah. We have Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Those were Noah's three sons. And unto them were sons born after the flood." Okay, so we just did a little rundown on, why it began this way, that Noah is the progenitor because of the flood. So verse 2, the sons of Japheth. So now it goes on to name the sons of Japheth. And very interesting, after the naming of the sons, the lineage of Japheth, take note of what it says. All right, so verse 2, the sons of Japheth, it names Gomer and Magog and Madai and Jovan and Tubal and Meshach and Tyrus. Verse 3, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphat, and Togarmah. Verse 4, and the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. Verse 5, by these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families and their nations. All praises. So let's look at that, saints. It says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands. So here it speaks to who are the Gentiles in origination. These are the Gentiles. So Gentiles are those nations descended under the lineage of Japheth, the son of Noah. All praises. The lineage of Japheth, the son of Noah. So let's move on. Verse 6. And the sons of Ham, it names Cush and Mizraim and Phut and Canaan. And so we know that name Canaan. Canaan is distinctive because out of Canaan came our forefather, our progenitor of the chosen people of the Most High God, Abraham. He descended from Canaan. Okay? And so let's read on. Verse 7. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Hula, and Sarta, and Ramah, and Sabticha, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. Verse 8. And Cush begot Nimrod. And we know the whole history of Nimrod, as it goes on to say, he begot to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And so we know the history with him again, where he would have been a haughty king. He was blessed, but he put himself above that of the Most High, where he tried to build and erect a tower to reach to the heavens because he wanted to sit among God. And we know what the Most High did with him. All praises. So let's go to verse 11. Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Verse 11. Out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh. And you know the history of Nineveh. Nineveh was an Israelite city, which was destroyed by the Most High because the people were disobedient. When he sent Jonah there to preach, tell the people to change, and they rejected Jonah, and they rejected the warning from the Most High, and so they were destroyed. All praises. So let's move on. And it says, and the city Rehoboth and Kala, verse 12, and Rezin between Nineveh and Kala, the same is a great city. Verse 13, and Mizraim begat Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Nephtuhim. 14, and Pathrusim, Pathrusim, and Cashluhim, out of whom came Philistine, and Catharim. And so we know the Philistines, they were one of the nations that put Israel in slavery. All praises. They were one of the nations that the Most High used to subjugate us, to put us in slavery because of our disobedience. Verse 15. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth. 16. And the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite. Verse 17. And the Huite, and the Archite, and the Sinite. Verse 18. And the Arodite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. Verse 19. And the border of the Canaanites, which was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar, unto Gaza, as thou goest unto Sodoma, and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zebulun, even unto Lasha. Verse 20. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. So we see here, after the lineage of Ham was presented, they are not called Gentiles or heathens. All praises. We see after the lineage of Japheth, they are pronounced Gentiles. Okay? So let's remember that. So let's move on to verse 22. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Ashphazad, and Lud, and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz. And we know Uz, from Uz came the lineage of, who is it right now? I forget. I think it's Abraham, if I'm not mistaken. All praises. I think it's Abraham. And after Uz, it says, and Hul, and Getha, and Mash. In verse 24, and Ashphazad begat Selah, and Selah begat Eber. Verse 25, and unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother name was Joktan. Verse 26, and Joktan begat Almodad, and Sheleph, and Hazamath, and Jerah, and Hadoram, and Uzal, and Miklah, and Obal, and Abemiel, and Sheba. Verse 29, and Ophir, and Hujah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Misha, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. All praises, a mount of the east. So here we're given reference as to where these nations and the lineage of Shem would have been situated. So these were the more southeastern nations that were named. That's why it says that the Mount of the East. Up before Shem, we would have had Ham, which was more central west nations. And before Ham, you would have had Japheth, which would have been those northern nations, more northern, up there on the tip of the so-called continent of Africa, and up there into the plains of Europe, and further up into the so-called continents of Russia, Germany, and all those other like places. All praises. And so let's read on. Verse 31. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their towns, in their lands, after their nations. In verse 32, these are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So here we see a scriptural account of who was the progenitor of all nations on the earth. And we see who he was the father of, which would have been his three sons, Japheth, the progenitor of the Gentiles, Ham, and Shem, the lineage of the Israelites today. All praises. And so, if we take account of all of the peoples listed, we get an understanding who they are, where they came from, and where they now reside. So let's move on and let's look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 25, verse 19. And so let's get a name to these nations that we just read about. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 25 and verse 19, where the Most High will give us some understanding as to who these nations are. Jeremiah 25 and 19. Now it speaks, it says, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that is one of the nations, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his servants, and his princes, and all his people. So we see here at this time that there's a proclamation being presented where the Most High is sending word to Egypt, where Egypt would be the ruling nation. And then we see other names being called out. And at the end, we'll get an understanding as to who these nations are that are being called out and why. Okay? So let's read on. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his servants, and his princes, and all his people. And so now it goes on to name all the different nations that Egypt would have been ruling over. And it says, and all the mingled people, and all the kings of the land of Uz, and all the kings of the land of Philistine, and Ashkelon, and Azar, and Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod. Verse 21. Edom, and Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all the kings of Tyrus, and all the kings of Zidon, and the kings of the isles which are beyond the sea. And those will be Dedan, and Tema, and Buz, and all that are in the uttermost corners. Verse 24. And all the kings of Arabia, and all the kings of the mingled people that dwell in the desert, and all the kings of Zimri, and all the kings of Elam, and all the kings of the Medes, and all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world which are upon the face of the earth. And the king of Shishka shall drink after them. Therefore thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the Most High God of Israel, drink ye and be drunken, and spew and fall, and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you. And so we see the names of those nations mentioned and called, and we see the Lord sending a proclamation and a declaration of their destruction and downfall. All praises. And we see the name called. It says, Therefore thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the Most High God of Israel, drink ye and be drunken, and spew and fall, and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you. So, since this proclamation, all of these kingdoms have fell. All of them have fell and reborn, but the proclamation, it had taken effect. All praises. So let's read verse 28. And it shall be, if they refuse to take the cup at thine hand to drink, then shalt thou say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, ye shall certainly drink. For lo, I begin to bring evil on the city, which is called by my name, and should yet be utterly unpunished. Ye shall not be unpunished, for I will call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, The Lord shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout, as they that tread the grapes, against all the inhabitants of the earth. Verse 31, And noise shall come even to the ends of the earth, for the Lord hath a controversy with the nations. He will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith the Lord. Verse 32, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up coast from the coast of the earth. All praises. So we see all the nations that were named, and we see why they were named. Because the Most High pronounced judgment upon them. And so these nations would be those Gentile nations, which were mentioned in Genesis chapter 10. All praises. And if we realize these were all the great nations that descended prior to the Most High creating the nation of Israel and Edom. Because when we remember, we look at the story in Genesis 32, where the Most High called Israel out. And through him calling Israel, he called Edom. Because they were taken from the loins of Abraham, of Isaac, and from Jacob, Israel. So they were the last nations created on the earth. And it had significance. That's why the Most High did it that way. So let's look at a chart of those nations as described in the Bible. So we see here Noah, who was the father of Ham, Shem, and Japheth. If we look closely, we see those nations that were born from Ham, which would be Egypt, Philistine, Ashkelon, Azar, Ekron, Ashdod, Tyre, Zidon, Dedan. Okay? And so we see those nations that came under Japheth. Arabia, because remember, the Most High said those nations of the desert, or those peoples and kings of the desert, many of them, but the names that were named were the Arabians and the Persians and the Medes. All praises. And so we further look at the Shemites. On the top of the list is Israel. And next would be Edom. And then Moab, Ammon, Uz, Tema, Buz, Zimri, Elam. All praises. So when we look in Genesis chapter 10, we get an understanding. Japheth was called out as the Gentiles. If we remember that. So now we come upon these other races who would become the heathens. They are the heathens who have no understanding, no belief, and no desire to know the Most High God. All praises. So the Arabians, the Persians, and all the other little peoples around who made up the desert areas, they were called Gentiles. And we'll get into that in another class at another time, where we'll delve into it and break it down more and get more understanding as to why they were called Gentiles. But let's go to the book of Second Esdras. Second Esdras 6 and 9. Let's get some understanding there. Second Esdras chapter 6 and verse 9. And it reads, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." All praises. It says, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." So remember I told you the Most High purposely made it to be that way, because it is his plan. That's why you see he created those two nations of one person. of one lineage, because it was his plan that Israel would become the ruling race. Because you see, it says, sorry, not ruling race, the ruling nation. For it says Esau is the end of the world. Because in this world we are living in, Esau is the ruling nation. And we who are Israel are subjugated and put under the foot. Remember the prophecy? We are put under the foot. So here it's saying in 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, for Esau is the end of the world. They are the last ruling heathen nation. The Most High is going to break them and rule them with a rod of iron. And then it says, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, meaning we are going to be lifted up and become the ruling nation of this earth and the kingdom of the Most High. So that is the prophecy of the end time to come. And that's why I said, and it is noted that Esau and Jacob, which would be the forerunners of Israel and Edom, they were created last through the will of the Most High, that His word would stand. All praises. So I hope you got a better insight of our Bible study and some minds were enlightened. So with that, we say shalom, Most High in Christ bless. Have a good night as well.